There is a bit of a myth going round, and for once it's not financial fair play. There are some people, and we'll come back to that stadium thing about the Glazers as well, because I think it's interesting. But there are a few people out there who, and I again, look, I'm like you. I read a lot of the journalists because they do have access into the club. You've got to be careful sometimes because I think they get spun themselves. Sometimes they put something out there because it's manipulative, because it might, they might get access for saying something. But one thing I've not heard about this summer from anybody is that the homegrown rule has not been assessed and identified properly. So we're going to do it on the United stand. The homegrown rule is basically that you've got to have a certain amount of players that are basically UK players, English players, whatever you want to call it. And that's the reason that United can't sell McTominay, Henderson, Williams, Alanga, Maguire, because they'll have hardly any homegrown players left, and you've got to have a quota of homegrown players. It's actually a nonsense. And although this is a very basic Word document, this will show you what the nonsense is. So if you've got a squad of 25 players, you've got to have a minimum of 8 homegrown players. You can have 11. And in this case, our 25-man squad would be 14 foreign players and 11 homegrown players. So 11 plus 14 is 25. Now, you can have an unlimited number of under-21s because people are going to say, where's Garnacho? Unlimited under-21s. In your 25-man squad, it is your senior squad that you must name. You must have a minimum of homegrown players of 8, and the squad is 25. But you can have 11. You can have 10. It doesn't matter. But to have a 25-man squad, 8 of them must be homegrown. Now, we'll come back to that in a minute, but as you can see with there, we've got 14 foreign players, which means we can go up to 17. We've got 3 spaces, and we can get rid of 3 homegrown players. So there is a lot of manoeuvrability for Erik ten Hag, and it is a complete nonsense to say that we've got to keep all these homegrown players, because we don't have to do that. We can manipulate and move quite substantially so that we have got a squad that works. So if I go back to this, I mean, ultimately, Fred's on that list as a foreign player. He's probably going to go. Donny could go. So you could bring your foreign player list down to 12, buy Amrabat, buy Disasi, back up to 14 again. On the homegrown stage, you can get rid of Alanga. You can get rid of McTominay. You can get rid of Maguire. You can get rid of Henderson. Heaton could go as well. There's a lot of manoeuvrability there. And obviously people will go, well, you've gone below 8 though, Goldbridge, you've gone below 8. But it doesn't actually matter. There's a lot of things you can do to get that homegrown squad down to 20, down to 8. And remember, you don't have to have 8 homegrown players. You don't have to have 8 homegrown players. You could have 6 homegrown players, but you'd only be able to have a squad of 23. Because you can only have a maximum of 17 foreign players in your squad. You could have 3 homegrown players, but your squad can only be 20. If you want a 25-man squad, you've got to have 8 homegrown players and 17 non-homegrown players. But ultimately, you cannot be in a situation where you are keeping homegrown players because of their passport. I mean, how ridiculous is that? Oh, yeah, I've got Casemiro, I've got Martinez, I've got Varane, I've got these fantastic foreign players, and then I've got Brandon Williams because he's got a British passport. With all due respect to Brandon Williams, I could say Alanga, I could say Maguire if you want. But the reality is, this is football. This is, the elite. How do you be the elite if to boost your squad numbers, you put average players in with a British passport? It's ridiculous. The whole point of it is that the same problem keeps arising, that we need to sell to buy. There's nothing wrong with having homegrown players. Just have good homegrown players. That's ultimately where we need to bat.